Okay, the rollers are nearly finished and we will be getting underway very, very shortly. So we need our judges and our backyard guys. We need some cattle in the camp. And if we could get everyone to their stations, please, because we'd like to get underway as quickly as possible with the McKechnie Earth Moving Open Campdraft. And we'll be starting with competitor 201, Hannah Blockland. Then we'll have competitor 202, Stephen Hart, 203, Sarah Cookson, 204, Barry Johnson, 205, Matt Durkin, 206, John Templeton, 207, Rick Hopkins, 208, Charles Tapp, 209, Peter Black, 210, Andrew Turvey. So as soon as those rollers exit the ring, we will be getting underway again. Don't forget, come and see Lauren when you can if you want to nominate in the Jackpot Teams draft. The nominations haven't closed yet.
I think it's confused because of the house.
Anyone who wants to use the FPOS now, we can tell you that Australia-wide we're back online. So anyone who wants to use the FPOS, apologies, not much we could have done about it, but I'm sure that you're probably hanging for a coffee or something to eat. Very happy to take your cards from this point onward. Okay, rollers are out of the arena. We're underway again. Yes, we have both our judges. Very, very big thank you to Tom Williamson and Tony Hick for our judges this afternoon in the McKechnie Earth Moving Open Campdraft, round 2. This is our first competitor out, 201, Hannah Blockland with Glamorly Bohanna, owned by G&M Nagel. And Hannah is all the way from the Adelaide River. Okay, Hannah gives it away. We'll give her a score very, very shortly. For Hannah, 202's on camp, Stephen Hart, standby 203, Sarah Cookson, 204, Barry Johnson. And that was a cutout of 21.5, 21.5 for Hannah Blockland and Glamorly Bohanna. Out on course, competitor 202, Stephen Hart and One Time Smart, owned by Barloo Pastoral. Into the camp then goes 203, Sarah Cookson and Avenue, standby 204, Barry Johnson, 205, Matt Durkin, 206, John Templeton, 207, Rick Hopkins, 208, Charles Tapp. please stand by. And for those who've just checked into your live stream, you're watching the McKechnie Earth Moving Open Campdraft. This is round 2. Score for Stephen Hart and One Time Smart. Cut out 22, horsework 60, course 4 for a total of 86.5 with an 83.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 170. 170 for Stephen Hart and One Time Smart. Just refresh there with Hannah Blockland. She has an aggregate score of 90.5 with a 69 the first round, 21.5 in the second round is an aggregate of 90.5. And Stephen Hart is sitting on an aggregate of 170 points. Score for Sarah Cookson and Avenue, cut out of 15 with a 21 in the first round is an aggregate of 36. 36 points for Sarah Cookson and Avenue. Out on course, competitor 204, Barry Johnson and Dodge. Into the camps, 205, Matt Durkin, 206, John Templeton, 207, Rick Hopkins, 208, Charles Tapp, and 209, Peter Black. That was Barry Johnson and Dodge, competitor 204. We'll have a score for Barry very shortly. Cut out 21, horsework 61.5, course 4 for an 86.5 with an 87.5 in the first round. Barry Johnson has a healthy score of 174 points, 174 as an aggregate for Barry Johnson and Dodge. Maddie Durkin's now on camp at 205 with Smooth Isa Minx. Standing by 206, John Templeton, 207, Rick Hopkins, 208, Charles Tappan, 209, Peter Black. Unfortunately, that's a no score there for Matt Durkin and Smooth Isa Minx. We'll just clear the camp and then we will continue on with competitor 206, John Templeton, 207, Rick Hopkins. Heidi Smith, if you can hear me. Courtney Turvey is looking for you. Heidi Smith. Out on course, competitor 206, John Templeton and Wicked Doug. That was Wicked Duck. Standing by then 207, Rick Hopkins, Irvine's Rebel. And he had a 21 for cutout there with an aggregate of 21. Our next competitor will be 207, Rick Hopkins with Irvine's Rebel. Standing by 208, Charles Tapp, 209, Peter Black, 210, Andrew Turvey, 211, Mark Buttsworth, 212, Laura Comiskey, 213, Bryony Puttycombe, 214, Bruce McNaughton, 215, John Mulcahy, and 216 will be Wyatt Young. Please stand by. And you're currently watching competitor 207, Rick Hopkins and Irvine's Rebel. $19.19 there for Rick Hopkins and Irvine's Rebel with an 80.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 99.5. 99.5 for Rick Hopkins and Irvine's Rebel. Score for Charles Tapp and Chick Chick cut out 13.5. Horsework 60, course 4 for a 78.5. That gives Charles an aggregate of 78.5. Next competitor 209, Peter Black, Yavin Freestyler. Then we'll have 210, Andrew Turvey, 211, Mark Buttsworth, 212, Laura Comiskey, 213, Bryony Puttycombe, 214, Bruce McNaughton, and 215 will be John Mulcahy. You're currently watching competitor 209, Peter Black and Yavin Freestyler. Score for Peter Black and Yavin Freestyler, cut out 22, horsework 63, course 4 for a total of 89. Had a 74 in the first round, gives him an aggregate of 163 points, 163 for Peter Black and Yavin Freestyler. 210 on camp, Andrew Turvey, riding Ruby. Ruby is owned by Banjo Turvey. And he's out on course. Andrew Turvey, 210, riding Ruby. Into the camp goes 211, Mark Buttsworth. Standing by 212, Laura Comiskey, 213, Bryony Puttycombe, 214, Bruce McNaughton. Score for Andrew Turvey and Ruby, cut out 19.5, horsework 59, course 3 for a total of 81.5 with a 73.5 in the first round gives Andrew an aggregate of 155 points, 155 for Andrew Turvey and Ruby. Out on course, competitor 211, Mark Buttsworth, riding Nonda Southern Cross, of course owned by David and Heather Pascoe. And as I said, Wayne comes from the best spot in the whole country, Kingaroy, and that's where I come from. Standing by to 12, Laura Comiskey, 213, Bryony Puttycombe, and 214, Bruce McNaughton. Okay, score coming through for Mark Buttsworth and Nonda Southern Cross, cut out 22, horsework 58, course 4 for an 84, with an 87 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 171 points, 171 for Mark Buttsworth, riding David and Heather Pascoe's Nonda Southern Cross. You're now watching competitor 212, Laura Comiskey and Skater. 213 standing by, Bryony Puttycombe. Then we'll have 214, Bruce McNaughton. 215, John Mulcahy. 216, Wyatt Young. 217, Paul Southern. 218, Jason Comiskey. And bad luck there for Laura. She goes out with an aggregate of 21.5. I'll have a score very shortly for competitor 213, Bryony Puttycombe and Tunga Chrome. Cut out 22, horsework 58, course 4 for a total of 84. That gives Bryony an aggregate of 84 points for Tunga Chrome. You're now watching competitor 214, Bruce McNaughton and Melody Chick. Standing by 215, John Mulcahy, 216, White Young, 217, Paul Southern, 218, Jason Comiskey, 219, Jay Pearce, 220, Joe Payne, 221, Carolyn Robertson, 222 will be Evan Hiscock. Please stand by. Score for Bruce McNaughton and Melody Chick. Cut out 21.5, horsework 62.5, course 4 for a total of 88. 88 with an 88.5 in the first round gives Bruce a very healthy score of 176.5, 176.5. And I think at this point puts Bruce in the top spot. So that's our top score over the 2 rounds at this stage, 176.5. Unfortunately, no score there for John on Stratton TKO. He had an 86.5 in the first round, which is his aggregate on Stratton TKO. Next competitor, 216, White Young and Hardwired. Standing by 217, Paul Southern. 218, Jason Comiskey. 219, Jay Pearce. 220, Joe Payne. 221, Carolyn Roberts. 222, Evan Hiscock. 223, Ty Blockland. 224, David Murphy. 225, Joe Marr. 226, Hugh Miles. 227, Pete Comiskey. 228, Jack Cable. Please stand by. As you are watching competitor 216, White Young and Hardwired. Have a score for you very shortly for Wide Young and Hardwired. Cut out of 14.5. Horsework 52, course 3 for a 69.5 with an 89 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 158.5 for White Young and Hardwired. That was We have a score there for Paul Southern and Canome Emery. Cut out 20.5 with an 87 in the first round is an aggregate of 107.5. Jason Comiskey is now on camp at 218, riding Saxon. Standing by 219, Jay Pearce, 220, Joe Payne, 221, Carolyn Roberts, 222, Evan Hiscock, 223, Tyrone Blockland, 224, David Murphy, and 225, Joe Marr. You're watching competitor 218, Jason Comiskey and Saxon. Just heading up towards his gate. Into the camp is 219, Jay Pearce. Standing by 220, Joe Payne. I'll have a score very shortly for Jason Comiskey and Saxon. Cut out 14.5, horsework 57.5 and 4 for the course for a 76 with an 80.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 156.5, 156.5 for Jason Comiskey and Saxon. Jay Pearce is underway. He's already at the gate with his beast. He's competitor 219. He's out on course, riding Jet Set. 220 goes on camp, Joe Payne with Spin Ray. Standing by 221, Carolyn Roberts. Score for Jay Pearce and Jet Set, cut out 20.5, horsework 61.5, course 4 for a total of 87. Had a 14 in the first round. That gives Jay and Jet Set and a combined total of 101. It's an aggregate of 101 for Jay Pearce and Jet Set. You're now watching competitor 220, Joe Payne and Spin Ray. Standing by then 221, Carolyn Roberts, 222, Evan Hiscock, 223, Ty Blockland, 224, David Murphy, 225, Joe Marr. 226 Hugh Miles, 227 Pete Comiskey, 228 Jack Cable, 229 Fiona Palmer, 230 Troy Palmer, 231 Tia Beek, 232 Michael Hiscock, and 233 will be Shari Knutson. Please stand by and we'll have a score very shortly for Joe Payne and Spin Ray. Oh. So the score for Joe Payne was cut out 22, horsework 48, course 2 for a 72. 72 and an 83 in the first round is an aggregate of 155, 155 points for Joe Payne and Spin Ray. Score for Carolyn Roberts and Pixie, cut out of 14 with a 78 in the first round, is a total of 92. 92 aggregate for Carolyn Roberts and Pixie. Now watching competitor 222, Evan Hiscock with Cartel. 223 is standing by, Troy Blockland. 224, David Murphy. 225, Joe Marr. 226, Hugh Miles. Don't forget to come and see Lauren if you want to go in the teams draft. There is still room to nominate some teams. Teams will be 3 people required. It is $1,000 to nominate, but it is a jackpot draft, and we look forward to watching that. That'll be Saturday afternoon. That'll be the last thing that we do, our teams draft, so please come and nominate. It's quite a feature. $223 out on course, Ty Blockland with Rainey. $224 comes on camp, David Murphy. Standing by $225, Joe Marr. $226, Hugh Miles. Just a score there for Evan Hiscock and Cartel, cut out 22, Horsework 60.5, course 4 for an 86.5, with a 71 in the first round. That's a total of 157.5, 157.5 for Evan Hiscock and Cartel. Now we have a score for Ty Blockland of 22, a 60.5 and 4 for an 86.5 with an 87 in the 87.5 in the first round, is an aggregate of 174. 174 for Ty Blockland and Rainey. David Murphy is our next competitor. He comes in as 224. Riding tempo. Then we'll have 225 Joe Marr, 226 Hugh Miles, 227 Pete Comiskey. Score for David Murphy and tempo, cut out 14.5 with the 21 in the first round, is an aggregate of a 35.5. The next competitor is 225 Joe Marr with EBS first cut. Standing by 226 Hugh Miles, 227 Pete Comiskey, 228 Jack Cable, 229 Fiona Palmer, 230 Troy Palmer, 231 Tia Beek, 232 Michael Hiscock, 233 Shari Knudsen, 234 Matthew Moffat, 235 Lloyd Davidson, 236 Jim Lawton, 237 Robert Durkin, 238 Wade Warrior, and 239 will be Erica Hanrahan. Please stand by. But you're currently watching competitor 224, still on camp, David Murphy. Sorry, Joe Marr, 225, Joe Marr on first cut. And he's out on course. Competitor 225, Joe Marr, and first cut. Hugh Miles comes on camp at 226 with Just Jack. At the gate is Pete Comiskey, 227, and then stand by 228 Jack Cable, 229 Fiona Palmer. Score for Jomar, first cut out 14, horsework 63, course 4 for an 81, 86.5 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 167.5, 167.5 for Jomar and first cut. 226 now, cutting out his beast is Hugh Miles, riding Just Jack. Standing by 227, Pete Comiskey. And he's out on course. Competitor 226, Hugh Miles, Just Jack. Pete Comiskey's looking over his cattle at 227. Standing by 228, Jack Cable. Score for Hugh Miles, Just Jack, cut out 22, horsework 60, course 4 for an 86. Hugh had an 81 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 167, 167 for Hugh Miles and Just Jack. Never messes around. Pete Comiskey's out on course, 227, riding Chevron Links. 229, Fiona Palmer's on camp. Standby 230, Troy Palmer. 231, Tia Beek. 232, Michael Hiscock. 233, Shari Knutson. Score for Pete Comiskey, cut out 22, horsework 60.5, 62.5, course 4 for a total of 88.5. I'll just give that again. Cut out 22, horsework 62.5, course 4 for an 88.5 with an 86.5 in the first round. That is an aggregate of 175 points. Nice healthy score there for Pete Comiskey, Yavin Smooth Sailing. Next competitor's out on course, Jack Cable. He comes as competitor 228, riding Chevron Links. Into the camps 229, Fiona Palmer. Standby 230, Troy Palmer. 231, Tia Beek. 232, Michael Hiscock. Score for Jack Cable and Chevron Links, cut out 21.5, horsework 61, course 4 for an 86.5. With a 20.5 in the first round, that's an aggregate of 107, 107 for Jack Cable and Chevron Links. So next competitor, 229, Fiona Palmer and Bina Larina. Standing by 230, Troy Palmer. 231, Tia Beek. 232, Michael Hiscock. 233, Shari Knutson. And 234, Matthew Moffat. Score for Fiona Palmer, that was a 14 for cutout with an 80.5 in the first round, is an aggregate of 94.5. Out on course, competitor 230, Troy Palmer and Blue Tunes. Into the camp, 231, Tia Beek, standing by 232, Michael Hiscock. Score for Troy Palmer and Blue Tunes, cut out 21, horsework 61, course 4 for an 86. An 84.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 170.5, 170.5 for Troy Palmer and Blue Tunes. 230 is next, Tia Beek with Roni's Chick, stand by 232, Michael Hiscock. Then we'll have 233, Shari Knutson, 234, Matthew Moffat, 235, Lloyd Davidson, 236, Jim Lawton, 237, Robert Durkin. Score for Tia Beek and Roni's Chick, cut out 21.5, horsework 58.5, course 4 for an 84 with a 71.5 in the first round. Gives an aggregate of 155.5, 155.5 for Tia Beek and Roni's Chick. Out on course, competitor 232, Michael Hiscock and Mewburn Bewick. Shari's on camp at 233, stand by 234, Matthew Moffat, 235, Lloyd Davidson, 236, Jim Lawton. Score for Michael Hiscock and Mewburn Bewick, cut out 22, horsework 48, course 2 for a 72. 72 with an 82.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 154.5, 154.5 for Michael Hiscock and Mewburn Bewick. Shari Knutson, chinchilla competitor, is looking over her cattle. She's competitor 233 with one time crimson. Standing by 234, Matthew Moffat, 235, Lloyd Davidson, 236, Jim Lawton. She's called for a gate and she's almost out on course. Shari Knutson and one time crimson, competitor 233. Score for Shari Knudsen, cut out 23, horsework 63.5, course 4 for a 90.5. That's a 90.5 for Shari Knudsen and 1 time crimson. She's with that 22 in the first round. She now has an aggregate of 113 points for Shari Knudsen. Next competitor is 234 Matthew Moffat, Hell I'm Smooth. Standing by 235 Lloyd Davidson, 236 Jim Lawton, 237 Robert Durkin. We'll have a score very shortly for Matthew Moffat and Hell I'm Smooth. And that was a cutout of 22 with an 80 in the first round is an aggregate of 102 for Matthew Moffat and Hell I'm Smooth. He's calling for his gate. Now on course, competitor 235 Lloyd Davidson with Bar None Contigo. 236 comes in, Jim Lawton. Can we have 236, Jim Lawton? If you could be on camp, please. Score for Lloyd Davidson, Bar None Contigo, cut out 20.5, horsework 52.5, course 3 for a total of 76. With a 15 in the first round, that's an aggregate of 91. 91 points for Lloyd Davidson and Bar None Contigo. This is competitor 236, Jim Lawton and Finley. Standing by should be 237, Robert Durkin, 238, Wade Warrior, 239, Erica Hanrahan, 240, Justin Vivas, 241, Rowan Marks, 242, Jay Hall, 243, Kylie Barnett, and 244, Ben Hall. Please stand by. Cut out 19.5, horsework 60, course 4 for an 83.5. That is an aggregate of 83.5 for Jim Lawton and Finley. Our next competitor should be 237, Robert Durkin and Yarrow Callgirl. Can we just have that message again? Okay, we're taking one out because competitor 237, Robert Durkin, is not here. We'll continue now down to 238, Wade Warrior. As soon as the camp is clear, we'll continue on with Wade Warrior, competitor 238, riding Meg. Standing by then 239, Erica Hanrahan, and then 240, Justin Vivas. Okay, just tidying up the camp there, waiting on fresh now, and we'll continue on with competitor 238, Wade Warrior and Meg. On course, competitor 238, Wade Warrior and Meg. Into the camp goes 239, Erica Hanrahan, standby 240, Justin Vivas, 241, Rowan Marks, 242, Jay Hall, 243, Kylie Barnett, 244, Ben Hall, 245, Ian Dowsett, 246, Linda Knight, and 247, Cameron Webster. Score for Wade Warrior and Meg, cut out 13.5, horsework 58, course 4 for a 75.5 with a 14.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 90. That's 90 points for Wade Warrior and Meg. This is our next competitor now in camp, competitor 239, Erica Hanrahan with Christmas Cat. Standing by 240, Justin Vivas, 241, Rowan Marks, 242, Jay Hall, 243, Kylie Barnett, 244, Ben Hall, 245, Ian Dowsett, 246, Linda Knight, and 247, Cameron Webster. Score for Erica Hanrahan and Christmas Cat. Cut out 22, horsework 60.5, course 4 for an 86.5 with an 84.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 171 for Erica Hanrahan and Christmas Cat. You're now watching competitor 240, Justin Vivas with Rita Ora. Standing by then 241, Rowan Marks, 242, Jay Hall, 243, Kylie Barnett. Score very shortly for Justin Vivas and Nibarina of Rita Ora. Cut out 21, horsework 57, course 3 for an 81 with an 87.5 in his original round gives an aggregate of 168.5, 168.5 for Justin Vivas and Nibarina Rita Ora. Calls for his gate and he's on course. This is competitor 241, Rowan Marks, Turner Marks, Natradalova. Into the camp then goes 242, Jay Hall, 243, Kylie Barnett, 244, Ben Hall. Score for Rowan Marks and Turner Marks Natradalova, cut out 22, horsework 63.5, course 4 for a total of 89.5 with an 87.5 in his first round is an aggregate of 177 points. That's 177 points for Rowan Marks and that is also a top score. Jay Hall is now cutting out. She's competitor 242, riding Kelsey. Very big thank you to Jay for the wonderful job she's done of the bronze trophies. If you haven't been over to the sponsors tent, I suggest you go and take a look. They are absolutely amazing. Standing by then at 243, Kylie Barnett. Then we'll have 244, Ben Hall, 245, Ian Dowsett, 246, Linda Knight, 247, Cameron Webster, 248 Wyatt Young, 249 Steve McNamara, and 250 will be Jamie Gray. Score for J Hall's Kelsey, cut out 21, horsework 61.5, course 4 for an 86.5 with an 86.5 in the first round. That's a very consistent aggregate of 173. 173 for J Hall and Kalesi. You're now watching competitor 243, Kylie Barnett with One Cool Girl. Ben's on camp at 244, riding Cosmo, standby 245, Ian Dowsett. Kylie Barnett and One Cool Girl, competitor 243, has a first camp score of 21. Horsework 61, course 4 for an 86. She has an aggregate of 86 points. Kylie Barnett, One Cool Girl. You're now watching competitor 244, Ben Hall and Cosmo. 245's at the gate, Ian Dowsett. Standby 246, Linda Knight. Score for Ben Hall and Cosmo, cut out 20.5, horsework 61, course 4 for an 85.5. Another consistent one, an 85.5 in the original round, which gives Ben an aggregate of 171. 171 for Ben Hall and Cosmo. Course Race Gate is on course, competitor 245, Ian Dowsett and Shandy. Standing by 246, Linda Knight, 247, Cameron Webster. Yeah, score for Ian Dowsett and Shandy. It's cut out of 21 with a 19 in the first round is an aggregate of 40. That's a 40 for Ian Dowsett and Shandy. Now, our next competitor is on camp. That's 246, Linda Knight with Knights Madison. Standing by 247, Cameron Webster, 248, Wyatt Young, 249, Steve McNamara, 250, Jamie Gray, 251, Michael Hayes, 252, Bruce Myers, 253, Riley Turner, 254, Daryl Jordison, and 255 will be Harvey Wakefield. Please stand by. But she's out on course now. Competitor 246, Linda Knight and Knights Madison.
There's a score for Linda Knight and Knights Madison of 21 for cutout, 21 only. The 84 and the 84 and a half in the first round, two-round total of 105.5. Cameron Webster heads out onto course at number 247 on Clarence. 248 will stand by Wyatt Young. 249 Steve McNamara, 250 Jamie Gray, 251 Michael Hayes, 252 Bruce Myers, 253 Riley Turner, 254 Daryl Jordison. Cameron Webster and Clarence come into the second round with an 89.5 and go out with a 20, 58 and 3 for an 81. Two-round total of 170.5. Wyatt Young, we're watching camp on Liberty Silver Rain, number 248. Standing by, 249, Steve McNamara and Remembrance. Bad luck there, Wyatt. He gives it away. He had a 78.5 in the first round and goes away with a cutout score of 15. Two-round total of 93.5. Steve McNamara we now have looking over his cattle at 249 on Remembrance. Jamie Gray will be standing by at 250 on Highway to Hell. 251 Michael Hayes and Shadak Jaguar. 252 will be Bruce Myers in conduction. 253 Riley Turner. 254 Daryl Jordison and 255 Harvey Wakeford. Out on course, we are watching Steve McNamara at 249 in the draw on Remembrance. That was time. Thanks, Steve. Time. Steve McNamara and Remembrance had a 82 in the first round, a 21.5, 51.5 and 3 for a 76. Two-round total of 158. Looking over his cattle, we have number 250, Jamie Gray and Highway to Hell. Standing by will be 251 Michael Hayes and Shadak Jaguar, 252 Bruce Myers Conduction, 253 Riley Turner and Turner Marks Battle Annie. So just a reminder, we do have our trade stalls open and operating over near the stables, up past the canteen. So big thank you to Shane Steer, who's here with the pump house. Also to Verback, we have Sally, Adriana and Kimberly available to have a chat to you. Revive Timber and Deck Maintenance, Jono, Sophie and Michelle are on hand to answer all of your needs and requirements, and Western Truck Group. Also not to forget KDB Western Wear, also open there with all of your men's and ladies wear, Ivy and Gus and Life Flight. We have a score for Jamie Gray and Highway to Hell, 83.5 in the first round, a 22 for cutout for a two-round total of 105.5. So we're just having a quick change of cattle, and then we will move on to 251 Michael Hayes. So just a reminder, tonight we are very privileged to have a Life Flight auction. We have kindly been donated 2 trailer loads of export quality oat and hay. This will be going up for auction and all proceeds will be passed on to Life Flight. So big thank you to Claire at Hill River Hay, who has donated this hay, and the freight has been donated by GVS Freight Services. And Andrew is willing to deliver the hay for free within 200 kilometres of Juandah on Sunday. So these trailer loads are actually valued at $12,000 per semi-trailer, and such a great cause that we're giving back to in Life Flight. And we'll also have a Calcutta tonight up at the bar for the maiden for maidens. So we have information there for the maiden for maidens. If you were entered in the maiden for maiden and you have an outside score, you will be going into that final. We have 25 competitors. So big thank you to everyone who's nominated our maiden for maiden, and we are Calcuttaing that tonight. So if we all head to the bar about 7:30, I'm hoping to get underway with that. And to all the maiden competitors today, 87.5 is the number. 87.5 will be going back into the final of the maiden. We hope to get those draws done this afternoon. Tomorrow's order of events will be the Restricted Open in full and the presentation, and then we'll be going on with the maiden final. Again, 87.5 will be going into the maiden final, and then that will follow with the maiden for maiden final. So anyone with an outside score that was nominated in that maiden for maiden will be going into that final, and that will follow on with the open final and the teams draft. So if anyone's interested in nominating a team, please do come up to the Secretary's office and have a chat to us. We'd love to see a few more teams in our event. Working in camp, we do have 251 Michael Hayes and Shadeck Jaguar. 252 to come into camp now, Bruce Myers on conduction. 253 will be Riley Turner. 254 Daryl Jordison. 255 Harvey Wakeford. 256 Toby Rolfe. 257 Jason Dorstein. 258 Wayne Deneen. We have a score for Michael Hayes and Shadeck Jaguar, a 79 in the first round, a 21, 53 and 3 for a 77, two-round total of 156. Working in camp, we have Bruce Myers and conduction, number 252. Bruce is all the way from Bundaberg down here to compete in the Willinga at Juandah Plains Campdraft. We're currently watching the second round of the McKechnie Earth Moving Open Draft, Section 2. We have a few competitors to get through. We do have 404 in the draw. But we are currently watching 252 out on course, Bruce Myers and conduction. Bruce and conduction had an 84.5 in the first round, a 22, 61 and 4 for an 87. That's a 22, 61 and 4 for 87 points in the second, two-round total of 171.5. Riley Turner is who we turn our attention to in camp at 253 on Turner Mark's Battle Annie. Following Riley, we'll have 254 Daryl Jordison and Oakburn Thunderstruck. 255 Harvey Wakeford and Kumak Honductor. 256 Toby Rolfe and Alice. 257 Jason Dorstein and Barwon Classic Reason. 258 will be Wayne Deneen and Designer Man. 259 Zane Haberman and Memphis. 260 Daniel Cheers and Impressive Kate. We have a score for Riley Turner and Turner Marks Batalani, 82 in the first round and a 14.5 in the second round, totalling 96.5. Daryl Jordison will be next in at 2.54 on Oak Barn Thunderstruck. 2.55 will be Harvey Wakeford and Kumak Honductor. There we are. Daryl Jordison and Oak Barn Thunderstruck had a 20.5 in the first round and a 19.5 in the second, two-round total of 40. Harvey Wakeford we now have, with the judge giving their go-ahead at 2.55 on Kumak Honductor. 2.56 will be Toby Rolfe and Alice. 2.57, Jason Dorstein and Barwon Classic Reason. Reston. Harvey Wakeford and Kumak Conductor come into the second round with an 86 and go out with a 20.5, two-round total of 106.5. Toby Rolfe is 2.56 now in camp on Alice. Standing by 2.57, Jason Dorstein. 2.58, Wayne Deneen. 2.59, Zane Haberman. 2.60, Daniel Cheers. 2.61, Penny McIntosh. Toby Rolfe had a 19.5 in the first round and a 19 in the second, two-round total of 38.5. 2.57 we now have Jason Dorstein. $2.57 in camp, Jason Dorstein and Barwon Classic Reschen. Wayne Deneen will come into camp at 2.58 on Designer Man. 2.59 standing by Zane Haberman and Stylish Swift. 2.60 will be Daniel Cheers and Impressive Kate. 2.61 Penny McIntosh and Hazelwood Co-Pilot. Jason Dorstein goes out with a 22.5, 61 and 4 for an 87.5. He had a 15.5 in the first round for a 2-round total of 103. Wayne Deneen, we now watch in camp at 258 on Designer Man. Outside for Wayne Deneen and Designer Man, number 258 in the draw. 259 comes into camp, Zane Haberman and Stylish Swift. Wayne Deneen and Designer Man come into the second round with a 21, and we'll have a score for him shortly. That's an 18, 56.5 and 3 for a 77.5 for a 98.5. 98.5 for Wayne Deneen and Designer Man. Zane Haberman selects his beast at 259 on Stylish Swift. Big thank you to Zane. He's come down here and he is one of our judges for the maiden. So thank you to Zane for all that he's doing for us here at Willinga at Juandah Plains. He is heading out on course. Into camp we'll take 260, Daniel Cheers, an Impressive Kate, 261, Penny McIntosh and Hazelwood Co-Pilot. That was Zane Haberman and Stylish Swift, number 259 in the draw. Outside. Judge one scorers. We do need a score for Zane Haberman, please. If you could please radio that up to us. Working in camp, we're watching Penny McIntosh and Hazelwood Co-Pilot, 261 in the draw. 262 will come into camp next, Ken Knutson and Hope. 263 will be Hugh Miles and Amaru Marlowe's Rose. So we'll just jump back a little bit. Zane Haberman and Stylish Swift had an 85.5 in the first round, a 21, 59 and 4 for an 84. 2-round total of 169.5. Then we had Daniel Cheers, an Impressive Kate. He had an 86 in the first round and went out with a cutout of 21 for a 2-round total of 107. Penny McIntosh and Hazelwood Co-Pilot go out with a 21.5. We now move to Ken Knutson and Hope into camp at 262. Hugh Miles, you'll follow at 263 on Amaru Marla's Rose. 264, Jason Lindley and Malungra's Poppertop. 265 will be John Turvey and Hugo. 266, Peter Black and the Spins Destiny.
Thank you, Lauren. Score for Ken Knutson, cut out 21.5 with an 75.5 in the first round, gives Ken Knutson and Hope a total of 97 points. That's an aggregate of 97. Next competitor is 263, Hugh Miles and Amaru Marlis Rose. Standing by 264, Jason Lindley, 265, John Turvey, 266, Peter Black, 267, Sarah Webster, 268, Tom Denson, 269, Peter Knutson, 270, David Duncan, and 271 will be Ben Tapp. Please stand by. Score for Hugh Miles and Amaru Marlis Rose, cut out 20.5, horsework 54, course 4, for a total of 78.5. Had a 73.5 in the first round. That's an aggregate total of 152. 152 for Hugh Miles and Amaru Marlis Rose. Next competitor, 264, Jason Lindley and Malunga's Poppertop. Standing by 265, John Turvey, 266, Peter Black. And you're watching the McKechnie Earth Moving Open Campdraft. This is the second round. Very big thank you to our judges, Tom Williamson and Tony Hick. We'll have a score very shortly for Jason Lindley and Malunga's Poppertop, cut out 22, horsework 61.5, course 4 for a total of 87.5, with a 15 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 102.5, 102.5 for Jason Lindley and Malunga's Poppertop. Now on camp is 265, John Turvey and Hugo. Standby 266, Peter Black, 267, Sarah Webster, 268, Tom Denson, 269, Peter Knutson, 270, David Duncan, 271, Ben Tapp, 272, Nicholas Markwell, 273, Luke Bennett, 274, Kurt Hanrahan, 275, Mark Buttsworth, 276, Rick Hopkins, 277, Barry Johnson, and 278 will be Troy Palmer. Score for John Turvey and Hugo, cut out 15, horsework 57, course 3 for a 75. 63 in the first round, two-round total of 138. 138 for John Turvey and Hugo. Peter Black is our next competitor at 266 on This Spins Destiny. Standing by then 267, Sarah Webster, 268, Tom Denson, 269, Peter Knutson. Score for Peter Black, cut out 14, horsework a 60.5, course 4 for a 78.5 with an 85 in the first round is a two-round total of 163.5. That's an aggregate of 163.5. You're now watching competitor 267, Sarah Webster and Botox. Standing by 268, Tom Denson, 269, Peter Knudsen, 270, David Duncan, 271, Ben Tapp. Now, just another reminder, 87.5 will go into the next round of the maiden. That's 37 competitors. It's an 87.5. Will go into the next round, and all outside scores will go into the second round of the maiden for maiden, and that'll be 25 competitors. We have a score now for Sarah Webster and Botox, cut out of 22, horsework 62.5, course 4 for an 88.5. That's an 88.5 with a 21 is an aggregate of 109.5. That's 109.5 for Sarah Webster and Botox. 268 is next, Tom Denson with Sweet Lady. Stand by then. 269, Peter Knudsen. 270, David Duncan. 271, Ben Tapp. 272, Nicholas Markwell. Out on course, competitor 269, Peter Knudsen, riding She's Purring. 270 on camp, David Duncan with Duncan's Desperado, standing by 271, Ben Tapp. 272, Nicholas Markwell. 273, Luke Bennett. 274, Kurt Hanrahan. 275, Mark Buttsworth. Please stand by. Just a reminder, 87.5 and over will go into the final of the maiden. That'll be 37 competitors. And all outside scores for the maiden for maiden. That'll be 25 competitors. The score coming through very shortly for Peter Knudsen and She's Purring. Cut out 21, horsework 63.5, course 4 for a total of 88.5 with an 88 in the first round is an aggregate of 176.5. It's an aggregate of 176.5, which is actually... there's a couple on the same score, so you're up there, Pete. It says on here second, but I think there's a couple on the same score, so you're right up there with those scores, Pete Knudsen and She's Purring. Next competitor cutting out is 270, David Duncan and Duncan's Desperado. Stand by, 271, Ben Tapp. Score for David Duncan and Duncan's Desperado, cut out 20.5, horsework 60, course 4, for a total of 84.5, with a 19.5 in the first round, is a total of 104 aggregate for David Duncan and Duncan's Desperado. 271 is now on camp, Ben Tapp with Supernova. Standing by 272, Nicholas Markwell, 273, Luke Bennett, 274, Kurt Hanrahan, 275, Mark Buttsworth, 276, Rick Hopkins, 277, Barry Johnson, 278, Troy Palmer, 279, Heidi Smith, 280, Wyatt Young. Score for Ben Tapp and Supernova, cut out 21, horsework 50, course 3, for a total of 74, with an 85 in the first round, is a grand total of 159, aggregate 159 for Ben Tapp and Supernova. 272 is on camp, Nicholas Markwell with Dazzle. Standing by then 273, Luke Bennett, 274, Kurt Hanrahan, 275, Mark Buttsworth, 276, Rick Hopkins, 277, Barry Johnson, 278, Troy Palmer, 279, Heidi Smith. Okay, no score there for Nicholas Markwell and Dazzle. It's an aggregate of 89. 89 points for Nicholas Markwell and Dazzle. And just clear the camp and we'll continue on then with competitor 273, Luke Bennett and Malunga's Moonbeam. Following Luke, we'll have 274, Kurt Hanrahan, 275, Mark Buttsworth, 276, Rick Hopkins, 277, Barry Johnson, 278, Troy Palmer. Out on course, competitor 273, Luke Bennett with Malunga's Moonbeam. Score very shortly for you for Evan and Kim Acton's nomination. Willinga's Moonbeam, ridden by Luke Bennett. And that was a cutout of 22, horsework 63, course 4 for an 89. That's an 89 with an 87.5 in the first place. That is an aggregate of 176.5, 176.5 for Luke Bennett and Willinga's Moonbeam. That pushes you right up the top there as well. It's not on first place, but it's certainly up there in the top 4 or 5, Luke Bennett. Next competitor, 274, Kurt Hanrahan with Peptotoxina. Standing by 275, Mark Buttsworth, 276, Rick Hopkins, 277, Barry Johnson. Out on course, competitor 274, Kurt Hanrahan, Peptotoxina. Mark goes on camp at 275 with Granny's Rocks. Standing by 276, Rick Hopkins, 277, Barry Johnson, 278, Troy Palmer, 279, Heidi Smith, 280, Wyatt Young. And we'll have a score for you very, very shortly. For competitor 274, Kurt Hanrahan and Peptotoxina. And it would be Peptozina. Just work that out. Cut out 21.5, horsework 59, course 4 for a total of 84.5 with a 20.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 105, 105 for Kurt Hanrahan and Peptozina. You're now watching competitor 275, Mark Buttsworth and Granny's Rocks. He's out on course. 276 goes on camp, Rick Hopkins, standby 277, Barry Johnson, 278, Troy Palmer. We'll have a cutout score for Mark shortly. 23 for cutout for Mark Buttsworth and Granny's Rocks. Had a 21.5 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 107. On course, competitor 276, Rick Hopkins and Super Act Shiraz. Barry Johnson comes on camp with Rafa at 277, standby 278, Troy Palmer, 279, Heidi Smith, 280, Wyatt Young, 281, Stuart Wallace, 282, Colleen Smith, 283, Susan Dynastis. Score for Rick Hopkins and Super Act Shiraz, cut out 21, horsework 61.5, course 4 for an 86.5. Had an 86.5 in the first round, so that's an aggregate of 173 points for Rick Hopkins and Super Act Shiraz. 277 now in camp, Barry Johnson and Rafa. Standing by 278, Troy Palmer, 279, Heidi Smith, 280, Wyatt Young. Out on course, competitor 277, Barry Johnson and Rafa. Troy's on camp at 278, standby 279, Heidi Smith, 280, Wyatt Young, 281, Stuart Wallace, 282, Colleen Smith, 283, Susan Dynastis, 284, Matthew Moffat, 285, Bryony Puttycombe, 286, Tim Hollis, 287 will be Cat Creek, and 288, Elle Parker. Please stand by. Was a cutout score of 14.5 for Barry Johnson and Rafa with a 79.5 in the first round. That's a total of 94. It's 94 for Barry Johnson and Rafa. Currently watching competitor 278. Troy Palmer. Score for Troy Palmer and Binna Shaquille, cut out 21, horsework 62, course 4 for an 87. Had a 75 in the first round. It's a total of 162. Aggregate 162 for Troy Palmer and Binna Shaquille. Hey, watching Heidi Smith, competitor 279, out on course. Heidi's riding Smith Family Gypsy Cat. Standing by 280, Wyatt Young, 281, Stuart Wallace, 282, Colleen Smith, 283, Susan Dynastis. If you've been listening to any of the interviews throughout the week, that's been Heidi's role. She's not only announcing, but she's running around doing the interviews and riding as well. She's a very busy girl, this one. It's good to see her getting around. So we'll have a score very shortly for Heidi Smith and Smith Family Gypsy Cat. Cut out 21, horsework 61, course 4 for an 86. 78 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 164. 164 for Heidi Smith and Smith Family Gypsy Cat. Wyatt Young's underway in the camp. Now he's out on course. Competitor 280, Metallic Storm. Stuart Wallace goes on camp at 281, Sky Cat, standby 282, Colleen Smith. Cut out 21.5, horsework 63.5, course 4 for an 89 for Wyatt Young and Metallic Storm. Had a 74.5 in the first round, gives him an aggregate of 163.5, 163.5 for Wyatt Young and Metallic Storm. 282 is on camp. 281 is on camp, Stuart Wallace and Sky Cat. Standing by, 282, Colleen Smith, 283, Susan Dynastis, 284, Matthew Moffat. It's out on course, Stewie Wallace and Sky Cat, competitor 281. Score for Stuart Wallace and Sky Cat, cut out 22, horsework 62, course 4 for an 88. 81 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 169, 169. Stuart Wallace, Sky Cat. Colleen Smith now is on camp. Competitor 282, All Cannons Charmed. Standing by 283, Susan Dynastis, 284, Matthew Moffat, 285, Bryony Puttycombe, 286, Tim Hollis, 287, Cat Creek, 288, Elle Parker, 289, Tim McLaughlin, 290, Zeb Pearce, 291, Matt Durkin, 292, Sam Cook, and 293 will be David Murphy. We're currently watching competitor 282, Colleen Smith, and All Cannons Charm. She's out on course. Susan, if you can come on camp at 273. Just another reminder, 87.5 and above will go into the maiden final. That'll be 37 competitors. And all outside scores will go into the maiden for maiden final, and that'll be 25 competitors. We look forward to that on Saturday. Score for Colleen Smith and All Cannons Charmed, cut out 14, horsework 60, course 4 for a total of 78. She had 17 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 95. 95 for Colleen Smith and All Cannons Charmed. Just leaving the camp is competitor 283, Susan Dynastis and Roxy. 284 comes on camp, Matthew Moffat. Standby 285, Bryony Puttycombe. 286, Tim Hollis. 287, Cat Creek. 288, Elle Parker. 289, Tim McLaughlin. And 290 will be Zeb Pearce. Score for Susan Dynastis and Roxy, cut out, whoops, it's gone. Score for Susan Dynastis and Roxy, cut out 21.5, horsework 61, course 4 for an 86.5, with a 73.5 in the first round is an aggregate of 160 for Susan Dynastis and Roxy. Now watching competitor 284, Matthew Moffat and Conflict. Standing by 285, Bryony Puttycombe, 286, Tim Hollis, 287, Cat Creek, 288, Elle Parker. And if you've just arrived, you're watching the McKechnie's Earth Moving Open Camp Draft. This is round 2. And also take this opportunity to thank our judges, Tom Williamson and Tony Hick, for judging here today at the Willinga at Juandah Plains Camp Draft. Outside, you're watching competitor 284, Matthew Moffat and Conflict. Bryony's on camp at 285, standby 286, Tim Hollis. Score for Matthew Moffat and Conflict, cut out 21.5, horsework 61, course 4 for an 86.5 with an 85 in the first round. Has an aggregate of 171.5, 171.5 for Matthew Moffat and Conflict. Score for Bryony Puttycombe and Destiny's... Oops. We just double-checked that score. Score for Bryony Puttycombe and Destinies of Her Own is cutout 23, horsework 47, course 2 for a 72 with an 88 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 160, 160 for Bryony Puttycombe and Destiny of Her Own. $286 on camp, Tim Hollis with Dolcara Victoria, standing by 287 Cat Creek, 288 El Parker, 289 Tim McLaughlin, 290 Zeb Pierce. Please stand by. Score for Tim Hollis and Dolcara Victoria, cutout 23, horsework 47, course 2 for a 72. It's a 72 with an 88 in the first round is an aggregate of 160, 160 for for Tim Hollis and Dolcara Victoria. You're now watching competitor 287, Cat Creek, riding Dave. 288's on camp, El Parker, stand by 289, Tim McLaughlin. I'll have some scores for you very shortly. You're just watching El Parker and Toy Boy. Tim McLaughlin is on camp at 289. Stand by 290, Zeb Pierce. So score for El Parker has come through. Cut out 21.5, horsework 62, course 4 for an 87.5 with a 69 in the first round. It's a total of 156.5, 156.5. Our next competitor is 289, Tim McLaughlin and Benera Bon Voyage. Standing by 290, Zeb Pierce, 291, Matt Durkin, 292, Sam Cook. Score for Tim McLaughlin and Benera Bon Voyage, cut out 21, horsework 55, course 4 for an 80 with a 76 in the first round, is a 2-round total of 156, 156 for Tim McLaughlin and Benera Bon Voyage. 290 is on camp, Zeb Pearce with Bailey Spice, standby 291, Matt Durkin, 292, Sam Cook, 293, David Murphy, 294, Pete Comiskey, 295, Rowan Marks, 296, Robert Leach. Okay, just confirming a score for Cat Creek and Dave. That was a cut out of 20. The 78 in the first round is a total of 98. Still just confirming Tim Hollis's score. And we're currently watching competitor 290, Zeb Pearce and Bailey Spice. Standby then 291, Matt Durkin, 292, Sam Cook, 293, David Murphy, 294, Pete Comiskey. You're watching competitor 291, Matt Durkin and Henry Boone. Standing by 292, Sam Cook, 293, David Murphy. Just a confirmation of Tim Hollis's score with Dolcara Victoria, cut out 21.5, horsework 62, course 4 for an 87.5 with an 88 in the first round. That's an aggregate of 175.5, 175.5 for Tim Hollis's and Dolcara Victoria. We're now watching competitor 291, Matt Durkin and Henry Boone. Matt has a 21.5, 60.5 and a 4 for an 86. With an 87 in the first round, that's a 2-round total of 173, 173 for Matt Durkin and Henry Boone. Sam Cook is now in camp at 292, riding Bill, standing by 293. David Murphy, 294, Pete Comiskey, 294, Rowan Marks. Score for Sam Cook and Bill, cut out 21.5, horsework 62, course 4 for an 87.5. And that's an aggregate of 87.5. Next competitor, 293, David Murphy and mobile price tag. Standing by 294, Pete Comiskey, 295, Rowan Marks, 296, Robert Leach. We have a score for David Murphy and mobile price tag, cut out 21, horsework 54.5, course 4 for a total of 79.5. With an 83.5 in the first round, that is an aggregate of 163. 163 for David Murphy and mobile price tag. You're now watching competitor 294, Pete Comiskey and Brittany. Standing by 295, Rowan Marks, 296, Robert Leach, 297, Rob Newton, 298, William Tapp, 299, Hugh Miles. 300 will be Peter Webster, 301, Joe Payne, 302, Cara Knudsen, 303, Tony Meekins. Score for Pete Comiskey and Brittany, cut out 14.5, horsework 61.5, course 4 for an 80. With an 87.5 in the first round, that is an aggregate of 167.5, 167.5 for Pete Comiskey and Brittany. You're now watching Out on Course. Competitor 295, Rowan Marks and Turner Marks editor. 296 is on camp, Robert Leach. Standby 297, Rob Newton. 298, William Tapp. 299, Hugh Miles. And 300, Peter Webster. Score for Rowan Marks, Turner Marks editor, cut out 22, horsework 61.5, course 4 for an 87.5, 22 in the first round, aggregate of 109.5, 109.5 for Rowan Marks and Turner Marks editor. Out on course is competitor 296, Robert Leach with Hazelwood Congressman. Rob Newton's on camp at 297, standby 298, William Tapp, 299, Hugh Miles, 300, Peter Webster. Score for Robert Leach and Hazelwood Congressman, cut out 21, horsework 58.5, course 4 for an 83.5, with an 88 in the first round. That is an aggregate of 171.5, 171.5 for Robert Leach and Hazelwood Congressman. We'll have a score very shortly for competitor 297, Rob Newton and Duststorm. 298 is on camp, William Tapp. There's our score for Rob. Cut out. We'll just have a correction. Score for Robert Newton and Dust Storm, cut out 22, horsework 61.5, course 4 for a total of 87.5 with a 70.5 in the first round. That is an aggregate of 157, 157 for Rob Newton and Dust Storm. William Taps out on camp at 298, riding Flash Spot. Stand by 299, Hugh Miles, 300 Peter Webster. Score for William Tap and Flash Spot. Cut out 21.5, horsework 60, course 4 for a total of 85.5 with an 86 in the first round. That's a total of 171.5, 171.5 for William Tap and Flash Spot. You're now watching competitor 299, Hugh Miles and Treasured Acres. Stand by 300, Peter Webster and Lucille. We will be dragging the arena and continue on with 301, Joe Payne, 302, Cara Knutson, 303, Tony Menkins, 304, Lane Mauler. Score for Hugh Miles and Treasured Acres, cut out 14.5. 21 in the first round, that's a total of 35.5 for Hugh Miles and Treasured Acres. This is competitor 300, Peter Webster and Lucille. Score coming through for Peter Webster and Lucille. Cut out 15, horsework 61, course 4 for an 80. The 21 the first round, that's an aggregate of 101. 101 for Peter Webster and Lucille. Okay, we'll just do a quick change of cattle.